Welcome back, everyone. Toldinstone has a fun video called "What Did the Romans Think the Future Would Be Like?" And I guess when we say future, we're talking distant future, because it's relative, right? Because if you ask this question throughout history, you're gonna have different answers. You're gonna have different solutions to problems you had in that time. If you had to ask this question in the Industrial Revolution, you get flying cars. I don't think you get flying cars in the Roman Republic. Um, So let's see what we got. Glad you guys are here, as always. Let's go.
Welcome to Toldinstone. This video is part of a collaboration with author and futurist John Michael Godier.
Oh, cool.
It's sponsored by Trade Coffee. How will the world end? Reflecting on that somber topic during the reign of Nero, the Stoic philosopher Seneca decided that the most likely cause would be a universal flood in which
That's not a horrible idea.
rain and surging tides would merge with subterranean reservoirs to drown every land. After imagining the last survivors starving on mountaintops as lightning played over the swelling sea, Seneca looked further into the future. The earth, he believed, would be restored after the deluge, and humanity recreated.
So basically a rebirth.
But the new men would be as corrupt as the old, and the world would be drowned again. Seneca also believed, however, that before the coming deluge, human observation and research would reveal more and more of nature's secrets, solving puzzles that perplexed his own generation.
That's an obvious one too. That's interesting. We'll be able to understand the world as we know it to a degree that will allow us to either take advantage of that or create knowledge from that could future give us a better chance, etc., etc., etc.
Seneca's musings reflect the complexity of ancient ideas about the future, which differed profoundly from our own.
Yeah, on the left-hand side, that's like the Age of Enlightenment and Scientific Revolution. I don't know where that is. It could be Vienna, it could be Paris. And on the right-hand side, you just got this like crazy looking building. I don't know where that is. Almost like a World's Fair.
Though prefigured during the Enlightenment, the modern assumption that the future will be more technologically advanced, if not materially better, than the present is a product of the 19th century, when the Industrial Revolution made a belief in continual progress both plausible and fashionable. Far from assuming progress, the foundational texts of classical literature proclaim the decline of human society from a primeval golden age. The most famous example, quoted and imitated throughout antiquity, is Hesiod's description of the ages of man, which presents humanity as the last and least in a series of mortal races.
Okay.
Decline was ongoing. Soon, Hesiod claimed, humanity would lose its last semblance of morality and be destroyed by Zeus.
So that's the paganistic view.
Greek thinkers often incorporated nostalgia for the lost golden age into a cyclical conception of history, which applied the human progression of youth, maturity, and old age to whole societies. The historian Polybius, for example, described the cycle of governments, from monarchy to mob rule, through which all states inevitably pass.
Inevitably. I think there's some truth to that. But yeah, check out this new guy. Well, this hasn't just been ideal. Let's just kill the new guy. And then the cycle repeats itself. But it seems very apparent in Rome, but you don't have a society that's built in a social structure in a way where you can have those prolonged time periods. And I think those time periods just strengthen through time, but then you get to the 19th century and you're like, wait, that thesis doesn't even make sense or hold up in this period even. We're supposed to be 2,000 years after the Romans. Like, what?
Again and again, indefinitely. Pre-Socratic philosophers applied the same paradigm to the universe itself. Heraclitus, for example, believed that all matter was continually resolving from and dissolving into primordial fire, and Empedocles outlined a cosmic cycle of love and strife that caused all matter to unite and disintegrate in turn. Later, the Stoics held that the universe was consumed by a conflagration at the end of every eon, after which history repeated exactly. There would be another Athens, another Alexander, another Rome. Without necessarily arguing against a cyclical theory of history, a number of authors celebrated technological advances. Although there was some disagreement about the relative significance of ingenuity and serendipity in driving progress, it was generally acknowledged that human discoveries had altered life for the better.
Yep. As always, technological advancements are providing the best that we can provide the human race.
The long list of inventions in Pliny the Elder's Encyclopedia, which ranges from the alphabet to catapults, attests to widespread awareness of technological change over time.
This is very interesting. Steam power? Wait. I'm confused here because I thought maybe I'm just ignorant. I thought steam power was created in the the late 18th or the early 19th century in terms of the Industrial Revolution. I thought we really harnessed steam power then. Now, steam power in the theory and in practice is very different, but in a lot of this stuff like philosophy, geometry, rhetoric, you can argue all of this stuff in different forms. Like, did these places really start this, or did it popularize it? Of course, this is Pliny the Elder, so we'll always take that with a grain of salt.
Assertions that the future might be better than the present, however, emphasized moral or political, rather than technological, change.
Optimism, too.
The most famous utopia in classical literature, the ideal city of Callipolis in Plato's Republic, is if anything less technologically advanced than actual contemporary polis. Before moving on to Roman trade coffee, select, like me, on the basic right plus drink trades in the country. The Romans inherited Greek ideas about the future and infused them with a sense of political destiny. After the unrest of the late Republic, Roman poets hailed the peace brought by the reign of Augustus as a return of the primeval Golden Age, when war was unknown.
Yeah, the Pax Romana.
Though intended to please the emperor, these evocations seem to have reflected genuine enthusiasm. Whether there was any widespread expectation of actual improvement in the future, however, is difficult to say.
I mean, it's better than what was the status quo. I mean, if you think about the civil wars, there was three of them. That was the one with the first triumvirate, and that kind of like fell apart with Pompey and Caesar, and then you have Augustus, Lepidus, and Antony go against the assassins, the second civil war, and then third civil war, you have Antony versus Octavian, and you get Marcus Agrippa in that as well. But you have obviously a time of peril, and even before that, you can go as far back as Sulla. So like the first century BC was just riddled in just bloodshed, and anything after that that's not going to be at that same level is just going to feel like a luxury.
The Romans imagined the original Golden Age to have been devoid of technology, since the earth had freely provided all things.
What really is technology, right? And what kind of like geometrical and mathematical inventions laid the groundwork in the first, second, and third centuries AD? What were they that perplex people to think of yesteryear?
Although the new imperial Golden Age was not associated with a rejection of existing comforts, nor was it linked with any expectation of technological progress. What sufficed in the present would provide for the future. Long before the actual decay of Roman power, proclamations of the new golden millennium coexisted with anxieties about future decline. The Romans liked to claim that their ancestors had been simple and virtuous, and seldom missed an opportunity to attack the corruption of their society, and especially its leaders, by modern luxuries. Such self-indulgence, they lamented, would doom the Roman people if not corrected.
Or the self-indulgences. And obviously this is a classist conversation because you have very different indulgences in class.
The seemingly endless series of disasters that overtook the empire in late antiquity seemed to vindicate this view, save in the eyes of the growing Christian community, which had a very different conception of the future.
Oh yeah, because the rapture, obviously.
In contrast to the cycles of destruction and rebirth proposed by Greek philosophers, The early Christians had a resolutely linear conception of time,
Yeah.
which traced a divine plan of salvation culminating in the second coming of Jesus.
Meaning there's not like a cyclical utilization of what history is. It's more linear. It's going to be a beginning and an end versus a cycle that will repeat itself.
Christian scholars posited that human history would last 6,000 years, 1 millennium for each of the 6 days of creation. Some believed that the 6th millennium was nearly ended and that the second coming was at hand. Others, notably St. Augustine, rejected any precise predictions. Following a prophecy in the book of Daniel, which foresaw the rise and fall of 4 great kingdoms, early Christians tended to identify the Roman Empire as the last power that would dominate the earth. When it fell, they predicted the end times would begin.
And of course, there's been so many people, and it doesn't have to just be Christian, but there's been so many people in the world think that they are living in the end times. It's recency bias. I mean, you only know what you know when you're born, and you accumulate data through your brain. You think, oh, this is this, because I have no pattern recognition prior to me being born. So, yeah, I mean, recency bias, right?
This interpretation would have a long history in the Eastern Roman Empire, where the fall of Constantinople came to be closely associated with the apocalypse.
Because it's because we have these infidels coming towards us. That's the thought process.
Although Christians believed that the Gospels were destined to be preached in every land and hoped for a universal community of believers, they did not expect the world to improve materially in the future. In this, at least, they agreed with the Romans. Despite poetic effusions about a new golden age, the Romans expected decline. With reform and discipline, they might delay dissolution. But in the end, inertia would prevail. The empire would fall, and all the ordered symmetries of civilization dissolve to lie in chaos until the world was renewed and history repeated again.
As always, Toldstone, amazing. Go subscribe to them. Yeah. So like overall, the Romans think the future will be cyclical, mainly depending on your belief. If you're paganistic, more cyclical. If you're not paganistic, you're more Christianized. Linear, meaning like there will be an end. And what will that end be? Well, might be now, might be later, might be when this kingdom falls. The prophecy says this, the prophecy says that. Let's not indulge. Let's go back to tradition. It doesn't seem like we've fared too far away from this as a society either way. But I think one thing can be said. We don't know. So thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace out and bye bye.